Did you have a second thing?
Yes. Buckle up. So this was another study that Max Lugavere was diving into a little bit, and then they talked about it on Mind Pump with it was two separate conversations, but they both kind of had the same theme with it of they were doing, and I don't know if these tests were done, I can't remember if they were done in specific states and if like those states kind of make sense together. Like it wouldn't surprise me if these were done like the South, but they were doing these tests on married couples, and it was just like probably surveys of how satisfied with life are you generally happy, do you have, you know, happy inspiring thoughts, or are you stressed more with life or whatever. I don't know if they're like actually testing their like hormones and are they actually stressed or not stressed, but that in areas where the household relationship is more of the old school traditional, and they did say like more of the like a Republican style, which I don't think that's necessarily what it is. It's just your behaviors in a relationship, but the traditional of there are male roles and there are female roles in the house and your dynamic of a relationship. And what I talked about in a couple episodes ago of like needing your significant other and wanting that to be like you are there to serve the person that you're with, and to go more off of like, I guess, traditional standards and traditional roles, that those couples, like the rate of divorce was crazy low, and their survey of their general happiness of life and happiness in the sense of like they have a good relationship with their kids would say they have a good relationship with them, their financial situation is typically on the better side, their ability to like transition out of like different phases of life, I guess, because they also took a different ages, like the survey of different ages. So you also take like older couples who are moving into, now you don't have kids at home, and how are you transitioning that, or retirement, and how are you dealing with that, or you have new kids, and then how are you dealing with being new parents. That the ones with more traditional settings have shown to have more of a happier, stress-free life.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is, because the cultural opinion right now is you don't need anyone. You're a boss bitch and you can do everything yourself. And like that example is, to me, is like, yeah, you literally have to do half the shit when there's two people. Like, what are we talking about? When your kid's pissing you off, like the other parent can do something about it. Or I don't want to do the dishes, I can do the dishes and they're done. I don't want to clean the car, okay, now the other person can clean the car. As long as it's somewhat balanced like that, and it's not one person is freeloading and lazy and the other person's doing all the stuff. But like, yeah, they're probably less stressed and more happy because they literally are not doing all of the stuff by themselves.
Well, and even that is a more progressive thought than what I'm even talking about. Like sharing duties is even more progressive.
Sure. But, well, sharing the duties, sure. But like, are you talking more about like them split up? Like the woman is doing the dishes, doing the laundry, doing that. The man is working, and
they call it like, I guess like more in like the social world, they call it like blue chores and pink chores.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Like, I'd never take out the trash.
Sure, yeah.
Like, that's not something you'd probably ever have me do. And like, I have the ability to take out the trash. It's not difficult.
What do I do?
Like, I can do it. But it's just having those certain things where there's set roles where you don't, it's not a stress that you have to think, like, instead of thinking about all of the things that you have to do, again, cutting it up in half, going like, these are just things that I always clean the bathroom. I always, like, if it's cleaning, I do most of the cleaning. That's something that is just, we've always kind of done that.
Yeah.
To where that's on my radar. Now that doesn't have to be on your radar.
Well,
so that frees you up space to think about, oh, I got to take out the trash. I never think about taking out the trash.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
That
you wonder if it's more, that's where I think it's maybe not
couple
so much.
to couple what you guys decide on. Yeah.
I don't think it's so much about the traditional, like the man has to do these things and the woman has to do these things. It's like, I feel like it's probably 70-30 of me with the dishes. Would you say?
Sure.
Or do you think it's more even than that?
I think it's more even than that as of recent, but I would say in general, I would say you're more of the dishes, I'm more of the laundry.
Yeah, to where like traditionally the man doesn't do the dishes.
I should do all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think it's less about the specific roles that used to be and more like you both are helping and doing stuff, and you can split the stuff that is to do because there's two of you.
Sure.
To when there's one of you, or I don't know, you get very like non-traditional with stuff where I don't know, the woman has to go to work and she's doing all the dishes and she's doing all the laundry and she's doing this and doing that. It's like, well, now it's just not even in the two parent household.
Yeah. But that's where I think nowadays it's hard to do the very, very traditional because it's just difficult to have a one income household.
Right. Well, what were they comparing it to? Do you know? Like they were doing, I mean, there was the traditional people. What was the non-traditional? Do you know like what
most people are now? Like either together, but not like I guess I don't know what the statuses are, but it would be like living together, but not married. Like that was a bigger category than I thought percentage wise. Like people would be living together, having kids together, but they're not married.
Sure.
And then it was like obviously like divorced or single, one parent isn't around. So like
yeah.
fully single parent. But yeah, more of just the not doubling up, the not two in the house. And then like even that, like two parents in the house, but not married.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
It's like, what does that, like that I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, even that kind of could change stuff because
there's something I think psychological that happens with getting married that we don't give enough weight to.
And I wonder even with kids.
Right.
Because like even coming from divorced parents, like going to school, and I mean, my mom had our last name or my dad's last name still, but I had some friends where it was that way. Like their parents never got married. They weren't together. I don't remember at the time, but they didn't have the same last name. So they were like kids just not knowing. They'd be like, well, why is it like, why don't your parents, like they never got married? And they're like, no, kind of like they just had us, but then they just stayed together. So like they were, that's what it was. They were together. What I'm talking about, they were together, living together, but they weren't married because it was one of those where like, well, they got pregnant. So
sure,
we'll just do this.
Yeah.
Like why waste your time with getting married, I guess. But it's like, does that psychologically do anything to the kids?
Right.
Of like, why aren't you? Or like you're living together and you're in a relationship, but is there commitment issue? Like whatever a kid can understand or even like subconsciously feel.
Yeah.
But
well, and for the adults too, like you don't have the same last name. You didn't make that commitment. What kind of weird psychological thing could be going on with that too?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting because then I heard, I mean, it's several conversations because I remember Mind Pump talking about that with Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson having like a pretty big stance on it, like he does with everything, but having the stance.
What? Jordan Peterson was kind of in the middle of something?
Yeah. But they had the stance because they brought up one of the people on there, Adam, who his girlfriend, who they're together, have been together for probably over a decade, and they have a kid together, but they're not married, that she came from a family where the grandma was the matriarch of the family. There wasn't a grandpa in the picture. And then her dad also like wasn't in the picture. Like it was like a very female heavy, who is your elders and who is raising you and who is bringing you up into the world and having you create your own idea. Like it was very boss bitch idea.
Sure.
Of like, you're the one that rules your life. You don't need a man because you have seen, none of us have needed one. That then her nieces, who are later in their 20s, and they talk about this Jordan Peterson too, that there's this epidemic of females in their later 20s that are very successful on their own. They make their own money. They're like intelligent and educated and very attractive, but they struggle in relationships because they don't have that idea of I need you. It's like, I am so self-sufficient on my own. You have to show me more than what I can give myself. And then they have that idea of not wanting to need that person and not valuing what they bring to the table because they are raised on, you have to value yourself and be able to stand on your own. That then they don't do well in relationships, or they're getting in relationships later and then they're having kids later and then they're questioning. Like it's, I think to me, why I thought it was so interesting is because it goes back to what your biology is telling you.
Yeah.
Like we talk about this and I guess more now, but like when we'd had the conversation about kids years ago, and I'm like, I'm just not ready, but I had this idea that I will just know when I am. Like my feelings will switch. And it's like, and that very much so did. And whether that's things in my life changed to make me think I'm more ready, which I don't think that's the case because my life is pretty similar. It's just like my body's way of telling me it's time to do this thing. Like it's a pull to where I'm sure if I was older and maybe not with somebody, like I wonder how much that would mess with my head.
Well, that's what it sounds like happens to a lot of women that have that, what you were talking about of the career driven, this, that, whatever, is they end up having this longing and this piece that is missing. And a lot of the times it seems like it's attributed to they haven't built a relationship with somebody to get married and have children or whatever because they've been so career driven, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's this like genetic nature component that all of a sudden a flip switches and comes in for women, and it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what? I thought I was doing everything that I wanted to do with life, and all of a sudden now I'm missing this ginormous piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like family and kids and taking care of that. Just like I think on the opposite side for men, where it's like work orientated.
Yeah.
Like men who are not working or not getting something out of their career or job or whatever, like they tend to struggle with life because it's like there's something in them that's like, I have to provide and I have to be achieving and successful in this avenue, that I think that there's some sort of genetic thing in that too.
And I think there's outliers to that. Like I'm sure there's many females that don't have the deep, like, I need that sort of thing. Like it's like, yeah, if I have kids, it's cool. Like I would like to, or like if it happens, it happens. But then I'm sure there's a lot of women or girls that are like, no, like I will be with, I would settle
sure
on who I'm with in order to have kids.
Yeah. I think there's for sure outliers. I think,
not saying I'm settling, but
again, you probably are. I think again, you're talking about a select group of people, and what we've done as a society is try to make that be the average and the normal, to where no, the average and the normal is you want to be with somebody, you want to have kids, you want to have this traditional natural way that it always kind of has been. Mm-hmm. And for some, like, I think there's a human condition to that of we want change and innovation and difference. So I think there's some of that of like where we question these ideas of like monogamy and being with just one person, or well, why does the women have to stay home with the kids, and why isn't it the man and this and that? And I think we're starting to come to this like crux where it's, hey, but this isn't the nature of what it is. And we're just trying to create something and do something new because we're humans and that's what we're good at. But you're kind of just running into a wall because this isn't what is natural, or this isn't what you actually want, but you're trying to fight it so hard.
And it's not like natural in the way of, oh, well, you should feel this way and that's weird if you don't. But like, you take kids and we talk about their developmental phases all the time and their motivation systems. Like, show me a 2-year-old that's not affected or doesn't get excited when they get to help with something, or like 2 to 5. It's pretty rare, or it's pretty crazy that because like that is the phase where their value and their excitement lies in being a helper to you and like getting to do more mature things. Maybe unless they're conditioned to do that, like 6 to 12, they don't care. They don't want to help you. That's a chore to them. All they want is competition, and competition with the same like peers. It's like that is ingrained into their brain. So when we get older, it's the same. It's like, I get so much joy and I feel so valued when I get to do something for you. To where in reverse, you can just be like, yeah, I just had to do that for you. Like, you needed help. Or like, yeah, I felt nice, kind doing it, but like, I'm like searching for ways to do that for you.
It's not like in my DNA.
No, it's like, you can easily go get your vitamin out.
But
I love every single day getting to get the vitamin out for you and give it to you.
Yeah.
It's like I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't just wire me different with that.
Well, and I feel like it's the same way if all of a sudden I started making crazy amounts of money. That would probably feel really, really good to me versus getting your vitamins for you.
Or even like you like fixing the watches.
Yeah.
And fixing that. That I would get nothing from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of like, oh, that was cool, I figured it out.
Yeah.
It's not going to like feed that, this is what I am here for, is to give you your vitamin.
Right. And take kids too, female to male. Females always want the baby. They always want to take care of the baby. And
oh my God, it's so clear with little kids.
And then boys are just like trucks and wrestling and superheroes and whatever. And it's like, unless you're purposefully trying to manipulate them, that is what they naturally gravitate to majority of the time. There's exceptions, of course,
sure,
but majority of the time that's what they're gravitating to, and that's what they want to do. And I think that's where it's like, we're just kind of trying to get in the way of that a little bit, because we're trying to break social norms and have it be more progressive and open-minded and that sort of thing. And that's great if it naturally happens that way.
Sure.
And it makes sense. Like women having the availability to vote. That makes sense. Right. You're 50% of the population.
Right.
But when it's other things that are being forced, and that's just not the naturally occurring situation, that's where it kind of gets weird. And even when you're trying to force it and it's still not working, it's like, we're just trying to force a situation now that's not. Like, if I have a daughter and I'm like, nope, you're going to be superheroes and trucks and this because we're open-minded. Well, that's not open-minded. That's closed-minded.
Right.
You're choosing that they're going to be something else.
Yeah.
What you do is you put all that stuff in the middle of the room and watch them go grab the doll and play with the baby and say, fuck you to the truck, and not even look at it. Like, that's what the natural open-minded way is. Yeah.
And I guarantee you even do that and just put a truck out in front of them, they're going to find a way to make it cute and little. Oh, look at the little baby truck. It's like, I have been around young girls for a decade of seeing them in like large groups. What they will turn into a little baby to like take care of it. It's like, I'll give out scarves and they'll like pretend they're wrapping and folding something in and swaddling or whatever they find. It's like, it's just what they want to do.
Yeah. And boys just want to wrestle.
Yeah.
They just want to fight.
Be physical
and wrestle
and crazy.
And beat each other up. And it's so funny, like even with Rowan, our nephew, Like the girls, I'm like, I'll poke and push and whatever, and they do this like, they laugh and and then they just like wait for it to happen again. I do it to Rowan. He's like turns and like just starts throwing arms and pushing and whatever. It's like, yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Like the girl is just like, oh, what's going on? This is funny, but I don't know if I want to engage in this. Like they're not going to actively like jump on you and punch you and whatever. To where with the boy, it's like you just like push him weird. He's turning and doing something. It's like, it's just, it's in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where I don't think it's heavy in culture, like as much as people talk about it, but I think that's when you feel a little bit of oh, well, am I not doing enough? Like if me saying like, I think I am going to heavily enjoy being a mom and just like doing that, it's like, oh, well, that's it. Like, that's all you're going to like? It's like, why is that bad?
Oh, right.
It's like say if a male gets more joy and fulfillment out of doing his job than being a father, that's normal.
Right.
And not saying like I'm not trying to like, we need to stop shaming that. Most people are not. Most people are like, yeah, you need to be a mom and this.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just people being weird and they're just going with the social norms rather than like, well, and I think there's some insecurity or there's some, well, I can't have that situation. So now I'm going to judge it and be upset with it. Of like the stay-at-home moms and whatever, that has now become like,
it's a wealth
like,
thing almost.
Yeah, like
not a wealth, but a
like you said before, it's hard to have just a one income source, like one person working and the other person not nowadays. So I think there's some judgment that comes in with that of like, well, you're stay-at-home, like, well, we can't do that. So now I have to try to belittle you and bring you down because that is probably what I would want and I would like to do, but we can't because it's hard to make enough money, two people, let alone just one. So then there's this, that weird kind of dynamic that ends up happening. And then there's the judgment over the stay-at-home mom. And
I wonder if
now every stay-at-home mom is like an influencer and making money that way. And it's like, people are judging that it's like, well, they're making money and somewhat providing and doing work. So what are you going to judge about that? Well, it's not like they're just on social media and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, so you're just going to be pissed regardless. Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because they're at home with their kids and still making money. So they figured out a loophole.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's I would love to know if there's a study on that or if they have like noticed that in therapies or which I think that's also just a different thing, but if they have seen that being a weird dynamic in relationships, if the male doesn't make enough for the female to stay home, if there's some tension with that.
Oh.
Subconsciously even.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, I wonder how much of it too of like the male not making just even more than the female, if there's tension with that. I wouldn't know. You would kind of think nowadays there wouldn't be. It's so normal that both people are working, but
it goes so deep in biology
thing.
though.
Yeah.
Even just like that. I don't know. Like, does the value change, or isn't it kind of like the thing of what I was talking about with the late 20s females, of like the value of themselves is so high that they're like, you have to outmatch myself. Like, you got to bring more to the table, or at least equal. And it's like, is that harder for men to do nowadays?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the men now are nothing compared to what they used to be in the 20s.
And it seems like women are just like, we're just gaining more skills over here.
Yeah, kind of. But and then it kind of goes to like the settling thing, but like then there's just, you're not respecting the male you're with at all. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, men suck now. All these women that are like, I just can't find a man. I'm like, yeah, I know you can't.
Yeah.
Like, they're all wimpy pimpy and want to play video games 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the 20s.
You're gaining another kid.
Yeah,
you have another person you're taking
have to
care
take care of another child.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
We're in the 20s. It's like they were men at 12.
Yeah.
Like, they could fix a car. They could get you where you needed to go. You could rely on them.
Yeah, it's like
they were dead at 35.
They're bringing other, and yeah, it's like they might be grumpy.
Yeah.
Might not be very pleasant to be around, but what is like, you can depend on them potentially, or there's this underlying thing of you're bringing something to the table that I can't. So like I can value at least what you bring that I don't. To where if you're bringing the same stuff, it's like you better be doing it better than me, or at least equal. Well, otherwise.
And what I've said before, like, if somebody breaks into the house, I'm the one who deals with it. To where how many women are like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to look at me and go,
what do we do?
It's like, I have played that scenario in my head too many times where I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
To where, like, shit hits the fan. There's so many women that probably look at the guy and they're like, I don't think you could handle this. Like, I'm going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what are you good for?
Right.
That's kind of the man's specialty, is to handle the tough times. And you can't. So we got to
And that's where I feel for women.
Else.
That's where they're like, oh, so I'm doing all the things?
Exactly.
Oh, I just have to do all of the things and you just want more of me.
Yeah. And what is there to respect then?
Yeah.
Like, what can you do?
Yeah.
You can't provide. You don't have any skills. If somebody breaks in, I got to deal with it.
If I would give relationship advice to a younger me or a younger kid, a younger person, I would go, look at yourself and go, am I a catch? If you're not, figure it out. What am I bringing to the table? Is it not much? Hey, do something about it.
For you, yeah, because you're honest with yourself. But a lot of people just lie to themselves. That's, I think, what the problem with society is now. Is people think they are the catch. I don't need anybody, and I'm great, and I'm this, and I'm that. No, you're not.
They don't deserve me.
Yeah. It's like, you're not anything. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, you're average?
And to be very, like, the people that are that don't think that way about themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The person
because
that
they've also continued to make themselves better.
Right. Yeah. They haven't gone like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I've done it. I'm really good. That person is constantly going like, what can I get better at? Or I'm not really good at this. I don't like how I do that. And maybe I could try to make more money. Maybe I could, try to be nicer to my friends or my family, or maybe I should do this better. Like, that's the person that you want, not the person that's like, I'm awesome. It's like, really? You think so? Because I see so many things that you're not.
Yeah.
It's like that false confidence that's just like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're a psycho. Well,
it's the silly things of like when you see, it's a very classic conundrum, but like you always hear the most attractive people are the most boring, or the most like, it's like, what are you saying, person?
Yeah.
Because they've only had to rely on the looks.
Yeah.
To where typically you take the kind of, okay, you're okay looking. It's like, they're probably the best conversationalist. They're probably the most like what you'd maybe want in a dynamic of a relationship. It's like, that person just looks pretty. And that's all that they've needed to do.
That's all they've needed to do.
And guess what? Probably not going to stay that way.
No. Well, and that's why they do everything they can to stay that way. Because that is their value.
Yeah.
And that is what they bring. And if they don't have that, now they got to talk. And they haven't practiced that. And they don't know what to do with that. That's why I'm a word wizard.
A word wizard.
Yeah. I don't got anything going on.
But you probably always valued yourself on your abilities. What do you think?
Sure.
Or no, I don't know.
I don't know. I never really thought about that.
Sure. Yeah.
Like what my value is. It's like, I don't know. I'm just here.
Mm.
And like, I'm valuable to some people sometimes, and then probably not most of the time to most people.
That's fair.
It's like, the value thing is weird. Like, who sits around and thinks about what my value is?
Me all the time.
Well, get to work. Why
That's
do
what
you
I'm saying.
think
Is like,
about that?
how do I make my value higher and higher all the time? Like, if I'm a stock, how do I be one that someone's going to put their money into?
I guess what I was saying is like, who thinks about their value? Like, gosh, this is my value, and isn't it great?
Oh, no.
Not
I think
like
it's
who's
more
trying
of
to actually, and even that I think is such a weird way to think about life, of what your value is. I think that's
probably.
So sad.
I think that's my conditioning through work.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what are you, I don't know. I've never had a regular job where it's like, this is what we're going to pay you. It's like, what are you bringing and what's your worth to people?
Well, and I think for moments and times and situations, like, it's probably appropriate to think about that, of like, what do I bring to the table? What is my value? What do I need to work on? That sort of stuff. But if that's your whole life and identity, that's where I think it's
sure
sad and crazy.
Yeah.
It's like there's situations, in a career or a job where it's like you need to consider what do I need to do to increase my value so that they pay me more, or they do this or that. There's appropriate times for that, but majority
in a
of the time,
relationship,
it's
you don't think
not.
it is?
I think that's just weird verbiage when you're talking about relationships.
Okay.
Like, I think when you're talking about relationships, it should be, what do I need to do to make this relationship better, and for us to communicate better or enjoy each other's company more, or that sort of stuff. Not like, what's my value? I think there's things that come into play with that. You can always make that the verbiage of what's my value. Do I do the dishes? Do I do this? Do that? But I think when you start to consider yourself this like meter or bar of value, or you're a currency all of a sudden,
then there's a comparison.
Well, then you're dehumanizing this whole thing.
Oh, classic Courtney K.
Which is
move to do.
Psychotic. I mean, that's crazy. It's like you're going, like you said, like what, like if I was a stock, no, that's terrible. Don't think that way. You're not a stock. You're not a company. Like, people aren't investing in you. You're not producing earnings. Like, you're a human being.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think that way. Like, that would.
And that's why
something I could work on.
Dead inside.
That's something I could work on. But that's not my like initial programming to think that way.
No, yeah. Yours has been trained to, what is your value?
Yeah. What do I bring to the table?
Yeah. That's crazy. That is such a low percentage of your life, of that question being posed and like needed to be acted on.
I think because when I think about myself as a company or a product, and maybe this is just like my messed up way of rationalizing this way of thinking, but it takes, to me, like what we said in the last episode, it makes it more logical versus emotional.
Sure.
I'm just like, if you were a company, what are your fault? Like, what are you not doing good at? Clean it up.
Yeah. I can see that.
Versus like, well, you as a person, you're not good at being kind with your words, or like you get angry. Then I'm like, but that's because of this, this, and this. It's like, no, if you had an employee, or if you had a thing that like when they blew up, or like when this thing got too stressed out, it falls apart. That's a problem. Fix the problem.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think if you live in that type of thinking, though, that's probably not good. You're always considering yourself a company and a stock and a product and a brand and all that kind of stuff. That's not. There's a balance between between logic and emotion, and if you're too swung one way, it's detrimental.
And maybe I just think emotion's going to come with it whether I try or not.
Yeah, but then you have no gauge or control over that emotion.
I don't know.
Because I don't know, like this situation of what's my value, what's my value, what's my value. If you're always living in that, you're completely taking out emotion and you're trying to only think about it logically, which I understand, and I like that approach as far as like, how do I step outside of the emotion and actually fix the problem and not just live in this weird emotional chaos. But then when something emotional does come in, because that's the other thing, like with stocks or companies or value and stuff, you can't completely neglect emotion.
Because that also influences influence.
Yeah, that's going to come in at some point. So now if you've never considering what the emotional aspect of the situation is, you have no ability to have control over it or understand it or deal with any of that. You're only trying to solve a logical standpoint. It's like when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to be logical. Well, they're not even in that atmosphere. They're in the emotional atmosphere and they're just trying to like bitch and moan and complain. They're not trying to find solutions. They're just trying to complain. So it's like you're trying to come at it from a logical standpoint when this is an emotional situation. And you just need to deal with their emotions in order to end up getting to a logical standpoint, hopefully.
I feel like my default is emotion, though. So I'm trying to like counterbalance my default.
Yeah, maybe. We're also blind to our ideas sometimes, though. Like, is that true? Or is it you've now conditioned yourself so much to be that you're not at all thinking of emotion? Because every conversation I have with you is not emotion. It doesn't have emotion.
Every conversation?
Yes, every single one of them. From start to finish.
I don't know. It feels like I'm feeling things. It feels like, okay, when I'm talking to someone, my default reaction, I would say over 50% of the time, is not logical, be smart about this, or like deal with it with politeness and like obvious moral standards. I'm like, I feel this way. I want to respond with that.
Yeah.
And I have to go, oh. Most of the time I don't go, oh. I go.
Yeah.
Gas pedal.
Yeah. Yeah, then you're probably right of.
But then I also see you go gas pedal, you go red, and you go attack. That is not good.
No. And I also don't think it's good to go completely logical all the time.
Because then I misread people's emotions. Like I'm not compassionate to them.
Well, and your own. Like if you're even thinking about something or trying to figure something out, like you're not. I think you kind of need to take both into consideration and think about both parts of it and come to a conclusion with all of the information. Because like people will make logical decisions without thinking about their emotions, and now they're in a job that they hate, but it makes me $150,000 a year. Yeah, and you're also miserable, and you're raising your kids like shit, and your spouse hates you, and whatever, because you made just a logical decision. You didn't take emotion into it at all.
Sure.
To where you could have made 70, you could have made half, and you probably would enjoy your life more because you're doing something that still makes enough money, still does well, but you're also happy and have that, like you listened and understood the emotional side of it. But then you could go all the way the other way and go fully emotional, and now you're making $20,000 a year. But now
Yeah.
your wife's like, we don't have any money. Your kids don't have any structure or whatever because
you're so stressed about the money.
Because you're so stressed about the money and you're emotional, but you're doing the thing that you love or your passion or whatever. It's like you have to take both into consideration and formulate the idea or the plan around it.
Yeah, I agree with that, I think.
But
I agree with that. I don't know what the functionality or the mechanics look like that for how that would work for me.
I think probably kind of what you're doing of the emotional thing comes up and then you're just like having to take a beat and figure out, okay, what's more of a logical approach to this? But adding to that still of like, oh, why did I get emotional about this? Why did my first reaction be to go gas pedal, get blood red mad? Like,
yeah.
Is it because I think they're wrong and that pisses me off that they're wrong? Or is it I'm insecure about something, or what is the reasoning? So then you can kind of understand, why did I get that way? And then you can still be logical and nice or whatever. And sometimes you can even fit that into the conversation of like, oh, that's interesting. Like that kind of annoyed me. That
There's
just
definitely
came up.
themes with when I go red.
Yeah.
It's not just like you say something, like even right now, it's like you're disagreeing with me, potentially, like in a version. I'm not mad. So it's not like, okay, I don't know. There are themes with, it's like three things where if someone acts this way or someone talks this way or whatever, I can already sense you're going to piss me off.
Yeah.
This is going to make me mad.
Yeah. To where I think you understanding that, and then if you can find a delicate way to communicate that as well, it could be helpful within the conversation, but you got to be so good at doing that because there's too many people that they've heard that advice of like, well, share your feelings and express your feelings. It might make things better. And now they're just puking out like, I'm pissed.
Wait, it's like, did a girl tell you that?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's just, that's not a, no, you shouldn't always share your feelings and whatever.
Right. And it also depends on the situation and
the
like, relationship you have with that person.
And you better be fucking good at doing it. Like this idea that like you can just say whatever you want and that's the positive thing. No, you better say it in a way that works.
Yes.
And does well.
Yes.
Not just, I'm pissed at you. You're really making me mad. Like, when is that ever going to work?
Right. Yeah. Are you 5?
Right.
And that's how people read it. It's like, oh, you're not emotionally mature.
No.
Like, you're a ticking time bomb.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so you are not a safe person to be around.
Yeah. And now we got to walk on eggshells around you and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know that TikTok might be banned?
They keep saying that. They've been saying that for years.
They upheld a appeal against it. They are saying that the owner of the company needs to sell. This is also crazy. Like, how is this not illegal in my head? They're telling, because it's a Chinese owner who created it, but I believe that I don't know if they are like still U.S. citizens and it was created here, but they're just worried that they're just taking a whole bunch of data, which all these other companies are, but I don't think they're worried about it as much because they're U.S. made and it's like our government is taking the data and,
sure.
And it might not be China that's taking the data or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation. I just was reading that there was an appeal and it was upheld. So they're still giving this person, they're literally giving this owner an ultimatum of you either need to sell it to a U.S. company, person, whatever, or we're going to ban it in the United States.
Whoa.
Which isn't that just seems like that should be, I don't know if it should, no, maybe it shouldn't be illegal. That just seems so weird to me. That's like if we created a company and the U.S. was like, we're going to ban it unless you sell it to us.
That is weird. Yeah, that is weird. I think the banning it.
But I also understand because of like national security and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, that's a threat.
Yeah.
So I would rather us be more secure as a country. It just seems like, oh, this is like, I don't know, tricky thing to. It seems like this kind of sucks that this is the situation because that seems kind of shitty to force this person or this group to sell it to you especially like.
And is it the data, like they're worried that they're going to like to use that to influence us? Like, is it
I'm
more
sure
like it's just another platform that they can push out their agenda? Oh
I'm sure it's for what?
My eyes switching.
Oh, I'm sure it's for a whole host of reasons, but from what I had seen, it's like the pulling the data. It's probably for influence. It's I don't know I don't know how they do it, but apparently these companies make money by pulling data out and whatever. That was one of the things that Rogan was talking about. If he knows the guy that owns the Formula One racetrack in Austin, and he said that they had, I think it was Homeland Security, come in because there was like connected to their Wi-Fi boxes at the Formula One thing. There was like Chinese technology that was just like connected to it and built on it. And they were like, we have to get this off. So they're just like, everybody that connects that Wi-Fi, they're just stealing all of that data. And I don't know what they do with it, but I'm sure it has to do with like influence and propaganda and
like hitting us at our weakest point.
Yeah.
And like figuring out what the weakest point is.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Isn't that weird? So where I think the same concern is with this TikTok thing.
Well, there's only one answer to that. Follow us while you can.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Get on our TikTok. Watch our videos now before they're gone.
Yeah, exactly. Subscribe to YouTube and follow our Instagram because TikTok might be gone. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
You know, it was another crazy thing that I heard on the Rogan podcast was they were talking a little bit about like diet and protein and creatine and like vegan and all that kind of stuff. And the guy that was on there, Derek, More Plates, More Dates, he was saying that people will do this comparison with like the vegan diet. They'll take like, well, if you eat, you know, this much broccoli compared to this much steak, you're actually getting the same amount of protein or more protein even and all that kind of stuff. And what he was saying with that was like, but they're not taking into account like the bioavailability of that protein or like the amino acid profile within the vegetables that you're not getting compared to the meat and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was interesting because I hadn't heard that be broken down like that, of people just kind of stop at the protein thing. Well, it's the same amount of protein, so you're good as long as you can eat that many broccoli or that much broccoli,
which is probably an insane amount of broccoli.
Yeah, I don't know, but like the vegan people will try to play these games a little bit with that, and they're not taking into consideration like, is it even going to be bioavailable? Is your body going to be able to break it down and utilize it? And then also, what's the amino acid profiles? Because I'm pretty sure meat is the only source that has all of the amino acids. I think it's something like that, to where vegetables don't. And then it's like, what kind of production and what are you able to do with your body, and how is your body reacting and utilizing and doing all that stuff with it? That I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a point for the meat people, or a point against the vegan people of like, well, it's healthier, or it's just as healthy, or we're getting, you know, it went from it's healthier and you get more athletic performance to now it's like, well, it's just as, and it's like, yeah, that's just slowly continuing to go down that like, no, it's not, like you're trying, but it's not.
Well, because in a weird way, I think on average, most people don't know about food, just period. Like they just don't know what's happening with it. But the trends are shifting to, before it was maybe just about protein. Like that was the only knock on vegans, where you're not going to get enough protein, to where now I think we're getting a little bit more educated on what is a protein, and like what are the mechanics in your body, what is like the functioning of it, what makes up a protein, what are the different strands and types of like what is going to, how does our body use protein, like what's the transfer mechanism, so then you know, okay, well that doesn't really, it's like that doesn't have the boat to get it across.
Yeah.
So like probably not gonna be able to be as used as efficiently as it possibly can, or like you're missing the point of why you should be eating it, period. Like we're not even like, take the protein part out of it, It's like
Well,
all the
right.
vitamins that you're not getting with it. And it's like, it's just a different profile. Like you take someone's DNA versus someone else's DNA. It's like, it's a little bit off. It's a little bit different from each other. The
Well,
same
and
way
you're-
that all of these foods hold a different DNA makeup.
Yeah, and you're kind of taking these foods and you're almost making it's like if you were to take a wide receiver and you're like you're going to be an offensive lineman now. And then you're trying to create the reasons why you're actually a better offensive lineman and then why you're actually going to be just as good. It's like, well, you're 180 pounds versus a 360-pound offensive, like it's just not going to work. To where if you were just put at wide receiver, you'd be fine. Like if vegetables were just talked about in the way that they are the best at what they do, then it's great. But it's this like trying to make it so that they are just as good as everything else when it's, or not even that, but just as good as, it's just the vegan and the protein thing. They're trying to make it seem like, well, lentils have a ton of protein and you can just get all your protein out of lentils. It's like, well, but again, like you're not breaking it down further of what is even the amino acid profile of this and how does it compare to meat? Oh, it's not even close. And
We're not giving food the power that it has. It's like, that's why there's a benefit to having variety. That's why you maybe should even eat seasonally, or why certain cultures, why their genetics develop differently. Like
right.
it's down to
Melanin.
it's down to, well, it's like, it's what their environment is. It's what they're eating. Their food is affecting their genetic makeup. It's like how they speak is affecting how they look. Like we're not giving the subtleties the power that it has. Or it's like what we've talked about with being in shape. It's like in shape means that's such a gradient, because like in shape for what?
Right.
Me being in shape for dance is different than you being in shape for football.
Yeah, I can't run a marathon right now.
Yeah. It's like, well, okay, you're healthy, which even that is such a, people say too much.
Yeah,
But,
that's wide ranging
like,
too. But yeah,
it's like all food is not equal, and it's not equal, first of all, but also equal in what, based on what scale.
right. Well, and that's what they're like. The vegans are trying to make vegetables the same as proteins, like on the same scale. It's like this. It's not. You're not even. They're not even in the same.
Meat,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah. They're not the same category. You shouldn't be even placing it in that category. They don't do the same things that meat does.
It's like we need to break it down. Even like red meat, different versions of red meat are going to be different. Then you take red meat compared to chicken. That's going to be different. You take broccoli compared to spinach. That's different. Like take even the vegetables and go, but what category of vegetables are we talking about?
Yeah.
Because that is also different for every person and different availability. I can't eat as much broccoli as I could something else.
Right.
Like broccoli's going to mess me up. It's just way too crazy on my body, specifically my body. For some people, it might be great. Man to woman, your genetics are going to need different things for your hormones.
Well, and that's what he was talking about with creatine too, because I think that's how they got on the subject. And creatine being solely from meat sources, they can derive it and create it from others, I think, but naturally occurring creatine only comes from meat sources, to where they were talking about the disruption on guts that like the made in a lab whatever type of creatine has. That I was curious about that with you, if you've ever noticed that maybe it's the creatine that disrupts your gut.
I haven't noticed anything with that. No. Because I've been on and off it so many times.
Because he was talking about it like it's a common thing, and I hadn't ever really heard of that creatine being one of those that can just give you gut problems or just digestive, he kept saying that, like of if your GI tract can handle it. For some people it sounds like it just does not work well with them, to where then especially you need to be eating more meat because you're not going to get it anywhere else. And that's where people who are vegan or don't eat a lot of meat, supplementing with creatine is really important. But even that, like the people who are vegan or just not eating a lot of meat probably aren't supplementing with it.
I'd be curious too with the creatine, why, like, what compound is usually messing up people's gut? Because, I mean, anything could, like, maybe that makes sense on its own. But I'd also be curious with the people that have had gut problems, which he would know more. It's probably about something in the creatine. But for some people, is it also what they're drinking it with? Like for me, I usually would drink it in a protein shake, to where the protein that we have now, I don't have a problem with. The ones that we were getting, before or years before for a long time of certain whey proteins, that would upset my stomach.
Isn't that wild?
So, would it be the creatine, or could it be the protein for people? I know some people mix it in with their pre-workout. Is it the pre-workout that's affecting your stomach? It probably is a creatine. Like, there's something that they have probably found that it is in that, but I haven't noticed anything.
I think it is, because people will just take it on its own. A lot of people do the creatine like pills.
Yeah.
To where I've never done the pills. I've always just done the powder.
Yeah,
and
I've never had a problem with it.
There's gummies for them now. You can do gummies, and
which he said those are not as regulated.
Not as regulated, and
gummy stuff just weirds me out.
Yeah, it does me too. It's like, what is this, high fructose corn syrup, or what is
gelatin?
Like, what the hell's going on with that?
No.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either.
I would prefer powders. Powders are probably also not as great for regulation, because powder is a powder. What is it mixing in? Kind of like, is that company only doing creatine, or only doing, like, are they mixing their machines with other things? Like, are they that same one that's making the creatine? Are they also doing their protein powder and pre-workout and the same thing? And does it kind of that's just a risk that you're going to take with supplements.
Any of them. Yeah, with supplements, period. Isn't that interesting with the protein, though? Of, like, it's not disrupting you at all?
Not at all.
Because it's non-flavored.
It's non-flavored. It's also the grass-fed.
Yeah, which could play a role, could not. Same with the flavoring, I suppose. But to me, I think these flavorings are just going under the radar as far as issues and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we're just, chocolate chip cookie dough. Great. Thank goodness. It's like, that's a problem. It's not great. Yeah. And we just take the unflavored and do cacao powder. That's the flavoring. Yeah. Like, there you go. Now you have a little bit of a,
which I like, that
actually
way
natural
better.
Chocolatey thing, not this. I mean, we had like a Hershey's bar from the Thanksgiving. I had a little
Holy
piece
crap.
of that. That is not the same as cacao powder.
No. Well, no, there's not sugar in the cacao powder.
I know, but it's wild.
Which I like this way better with the cacao. I didn't I don't like protein flavored stuff. Like, I just didn't like protein shakes. It was one of those where, like, I have to have this, but I don't enjoy it. That I like this way better. Just the non-flavored, and mixing it with honey or the cacao powder or something else. The weird flavors, it just...
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it.
Well, they're just kind of fakey tasting. But if your palate is...
But they all taste like protein powder.
Yeah. I think that's what's funny. Your palate just gets adjusted and, like, regulated to what you're having. So when you're eating processed foods all the time, and everything has that kind of same, I don't know, just whatever, and then you have protein powders, like, you're so excited when your new protein powder gets cinnamon bun or something.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, a collab with Ben & Jerry's, great.
Yeah.
You're so pumped about it. And it's like, then we have it and we're like, this tastes like shit, because it's not, our palates aren't used to that. It's not real flavors in food. It's like the same watermelon. What are you talking about? No watermelon has ever tasted like this in my life. Then you actually go have a watermelon. You're like, well, I mean, that happens all the time. We've talked about it a gazillion times, but when you, like, haven't had an apple in a while, or you haven't had an orange in a while, or like a mango, then you have one, you're like, holy
this is candy.
Crap. Like, this actually tastes sugary and like I like a candy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to not be eating candy and shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you're eating stuff, like they just love throwing sugar and stuff.
I
Sugar
used
and
to-
salt is in there's so much of it in every processed food ever. I was trying to pick out a yogurt. Hey, you want to talk about anxiety?
Oh my God. How long were we in the aisle?
I'm joking, but it took
How
me
long were we in that aisle?
it took me 10 minutes to pick out a yogurt, and it was like I'm still not happy about this choice.
No. Which we don't eat yogurt. We don't really do the dairy. The dairy. We don't do dairy anymore. But
Well, that's not dairy. That's the problem.
right.
We do dairy. That's not dairy.
Sure.
That's natural flavorings and sugar.
Yeah.
That's what yogurt is now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It's so much sugar and it's so much like there's not fat in it. It's not a healthy fat.
And then the yogurt's like all non-fat. What is the point
What is it?
of
What is this?
yogurt? What are we talking about? It's like non-fat milk. Hey, guess what? That's the whole point of milk is the fat.
right. I know when I was getting the
Jesus.
Instacart order for work and people like doing the cream in their coffee and the milks and whatever, I'm like, I am poisoning my friends. That's what it felt like to me. I'm like, I am poisoning the people that I
Well,
care
and then
about.
I get like a coconut yogurt. And I'm like, this gotta be somewhat whatever. And it's like, nah.
No.
You look at the ingredients, it's like there's not an ounce of coconut probably even in here.
Mm-mm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's maddening.
I know.
It's maddening. And then
Well, and
that's categorized as a health food.
I know.
Is yogurt. Yogurt, it's probiotics and your microbiome.
I know.
And they just throw out these words that nobody knows the meaning of and they go, "Oh my god, great. I didn't know I needed microbiome. I guess I'll eat some."
I know.
You're getting tricked.
I know. Well, and that's like at work, like people having those conversations with us. They're like saying like, well, I do almond milk now. I do oat milk. I'm like,
Yeah. You
Look
ever
at
try
the
to milk an
ingredients.
almond?
look at the ingredients.
I love when people say that.
Well, it's like you can
Nut
make
milk? You ever try to milk a nut?
if you make almond milk at home, like it works. Like you'll get a creamy substance. You just have to do it right.
It's
But
almond
even that
water.
does not look. Yeah, it's soaked almond water. Like that's not also what it looks like coming out of the carton. If you do it at home, it doesn't look the same.
No.
That-
Nothing does when you make it at home.
But yeah, like that's when you think that's healthy. Like the amount of things that people eat that they think is healthy and it's just not, because that's what's like. I don't want to say like it's not their fault, but it's like that's not what's branded to you.
No, it's not what's promoted. It's not what's talked about. Like the yogurt example. We're told that yogurt is good for you. It's got all these probiotics and that you need that. And that's good for your gut and good for all this stuff. And it's like, okay, if it's kind of like a real yogurt, which also, I don't even know if a real yogurt exists.
You're not going to you'll get kefir.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So-
you'll get kefir or you'll get cream.
So if you tell me you eat yogurt, processed fake food. It's not even real.
Yeah.
If you tell me you eat heavy cream or kefir, whatever the fuck you want to say, like, okay, now you're eating something that's actually probably naturally occurring and real.
Yeah.
But this pasteurized cream with 17 grams of sugar and natural flavorings, I mean,
No.
go get a Hershey's bar. That's probably more natural.
Well, let's not be crazy, but yeah, no, it's not. Like you can't heat to make a yogurt, you are killing the benefits of the milk, of the dairy. Like you can't get that consistency without killing it. Like that's like if you get kefir, like it's more runny and liquidy, to where if you get cream, it's like kind of what you see like in buttermilk. Like it's a thicker. It kind of looks like yogurt, but it's still going to be more liquidy, and it's not going to have the opaqueness that what we see in the store as yogurt. Like if you get raw cream, it's not. You're going to see the difference. You're not going to go like, oh, that's yogurt.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be.
Yeah.
People aren't going to eat it.
No.
Which I like it better. I think it's so good. Of course, can't find it.
Your palate is more designed for it now.
Yeah.
I think that's just what naturally happens is you don't like that stuff at first, and then you continue to eat those types of foods, and then your palate gets designed to have that.
Yeah.
Like going out to eat is just whatever now. It's all tastes bland and just junky, and it just gives me a weird feeling in my body now, because it's just like, oh, this is all nasty. To where it's not like fresh and alive and whatever, seasoned really well and all that kind of stuff that we make at home.
Yeah.
It's like it's all just, oh, I can tell this patty has been frozen for months, and I can tell the bun is probably been also in a freezer or something and is slightly stale, and the lettuce is limp, and the tomato is like just not, like, doesn't have any flavor left, and
It's barely red.
it's barely even red. It's like a pink now, and then it's like, so I just have to douse this in ketchup and mustard to get any flavor? And it's like, this ketchup has got 17 grams of sugar in it.
Holy crap! Yeah.
Mustard came from who knows where. It's ridiculous.
$12.
Yeah, and then now it's $13. It's like, this sucks, and they made it smaller because they're trying to cut costs.
Yeah. I mean, at least that's better. Portion size is probably shouldn't have been that to begin with, but
Well, true. By the time this comes out, Bill Belichick might be the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
What?
Yeah, he had his second interview with them. College.
He couldn't even stay away for a season.
Isn't that weird? Well, the season's basically over.
Okay. He made it a season.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Can't
Can't
stay
keep
away.
the eye away.
So I guess gotta get North Carolina.
I wonder
Tar
what.
Heels stuff.
I mean, I love that color, so I'm down for that. North Carolina, though.
Yeah, it's whatever.
No connection.
Gets hit by hurricanes and
It's a fine place. Which I guess we do Patriot stuff, but Patriot stuff was only because of Belichick for me.
oh,
Like the team now, I'm like, it's. I just get it because that's the thing that you like.
fair weather fan over there.
It's like I'm following I liked it because of him.
Yeah, that's the problem with following like coaches or players is they never stay at the same team.
Which that's fine. Like I respected his way of coaching, and that's what I thought was cool was his coaching style and what he changed a brand based off of his coaching abilities, which is so cool.
Yeah, same with Coach K.
Yeah. It's like I follow that, or I'm a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the team.
Yeah.
It was just his team for so long, so it's like maybe kind of same, but they're synonymous with each other. But not anymore.
Coming to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
All right, people. Like and subscribe on all of the platforms.
Especially TikTok, because
Yes.
it might be banned.
TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, it might be banned. So move over to YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
We're on all of those. So go like, subscribe, be a part of the community that we're building, the cult that we're building to take over the world.
Yep. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving, too. These are the first podcasts after that. I mean, it's been weeks, but
Basically Christmas now.
yeah,
by
it's
the
been
time this
weeks.
comes out.
We backlog a little bit.
Hope you had a good Christmas.
The next episode, it'll be on my birthday that we're going to shoot.
Shoot, yeah, but
Yeah, not. You won't
out.
see it. We're
so
doing it on my birthday.
interesting. Yeah. Hit
See you later.
it.